stick it in here. If it rains, I'll just pick it up.
Call to order the CRA City Council Workshop. This is Thursday, February 4th. It's 2 p.m. Ms. Rakowski, would you like to call roll, please?
Mayor Lake,
Here.
Vice Mayor Hart,
Here.
Councilman Brown,
Here.
Councilwoman Kelly,
Here.
Councilman Peoples.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam Mayor.
Excellent. Are there any public comment cards today?
I have one today. Have Mr. Scott Cornegay.
Oh, well, I see that was a prelude to you becoming up here as a different persona.
Yeah, I was just joking. I wouldn't do that.
You're
I'm
missing
here.
your pink shirt.
I'm here, yeah, exactly. No, I'm here as Scott Cornegay, Executive Director of Lake Region Development Corporation. So on your agenda today, I see you have some discussion scheduled for park renovations. And what I would like for each of you to consider as you go through your deliberations is concentrating your efforts on the beach park. You've got great momentum going down there right now with the renovation of the pavilion. You got a new fence coming in next week, I think, or the week after. I believe you have an opportunity right now to do something remarkable over there, rather than skip around from park to park, Sunrise, theme park, tennis courts, what have you. I believe that you would be doing the community, the whole lake region, a tremendous favor if you were to concentrate whatever it is you intend to do over there. I know that from the last meeting, from the last city council meeting, I believe the number was a little bit somewhere between $200,000 and $250,000 for all three of the projects over there: the stage, the cover, the picnic area, and the restrooms. And if you could get all that done for less than $250,000, I'm a little bit familiar with your budget, so I do know that's a doable thing. But it would be my recommendation on behalf of the Lake Region Development Corporation to encourage you to go that route. And also, I know you're going to talk about fee structure for pavilion rental also today. There's been some talk among the community about what that structure would look like. This is my personal opinion, but what I would like to see is some sort of tiered structure with a government rate that would, I believe, should be free, a nonprofit civic organization rate, which should be close to free, and then a individual rate, public rate, that would be somewhere in the market, whatever the market bears, Orange Park, Green Cove Springs, whatever they get. So those are my two comments, and I hope you have a wonderful workshop and productive time today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so under agenda item 2, continued park renovations, restaurant, ticket booth. Ms. Rakowski, do you want to take them as a group, or you want to take them individually?
So the point of the workshop today is just for conversational purposes only. We can take them as a group, or we can discuss them individually and how the council would like to see the city move forward, and then we'll talk about it for a decision at the next council meeting.
Okay, so what I'd like to do, Mr. Brown, since you're on the end down there, why don't we let each council member address their ideas, your concerns, your comments, one at a time, and you could take
Conversational
You could
purposes
take
only.
any one of those, all of those? Under two.
Okay. Well, over the years, we've had nothing but issues with the restrooms. I think that should be a priority, that we get these restrooms up to speed, and where we're not continuously spending money on them. My understanding, the ticket booth needs to go through because of termites and stuff. I was kind of saddened by that because, but it is what it is. There's no sense in keeping it if it's going to fall down anyhow. So I would say taking that out, and I definitely would like to see the stage, as Mr. Peoples has brought to the council some time ago, about some type of cover area. I think we talked in the budget and finance committee about taking that the frame part that's on there now, the decking, and making that concrete? Is that correct? We still doing that?
Yes, so there is structural damage or structural issues to the stage itself, and so the recommendation would be to take all of that out, fill it in, and then pour a concrete slab in place of the decking.
I personally think the way that it's written here, that's the route. I mean, how we need to do, go restrooms, go stage, and go to the picnic area. Is that what you're looking for, Mayor? I mean,
Yes, and can we go back to the scope? On the scope for the restrooms, can you describe for us, I briefly looked over it when I got here today, but I would like to know what those renovations would include, because I think those restrooms should be closed in and insulated, just like the pavilion has been remodeled, to meet the same standard as the pavilion. Is that what this plan, this $55,000 plan will do?
The $55,000 plan will not enclose and inhabit a climate-controlled area. It will still be a ventilated area, just like it is now. It will, however, change the structure of the restrooms a little bit because it will make them ADA compliant. Our doors at the moment are not. There's a couple of different issues with that. The landing pad, the walkway up to it, those are all not ADA compliant, so it would change all of that. There's interior plumbing that's inside the brick wall that needs to be addressed. When the restroom was installed, however many years ago, it was installed as a residential piping or plumbing, if you will, and it needs to be changed to a commercial. There's a change in water line size. Forgive me, I don't know the technical terms. That's why we hire people like Sheer. And then also different anti-vandalism facilities inside. We'll change our commodes, we'll change our sinks so that they won't be porcelain. They'll be the stainless steel, something similar to what they use within the prison system to help with the vandalism. You won't be able to tear them off the wall as easy and things of that nature. And then, of course, redoing the interior so that you're walking into a nice facility, but it will, under this scope, will not be climate controlled.
Okay, so then my question to you, Mr. Brown, and to all the other council members, how important is it to you to have a climate-controlled restroom versus a vented restroom?
I'm not in favor of spending the money to do a climate-controlled bathroom for the beach. I mean, it's always been, not just because it's always been, but if you go to Anastasia Park, State Park, those aren't climate controlled. I don't think Goldhead is climate controlled. I mean, if we had showers and stuff like that in there for them, maybe, but we're not gonna do that. I mean, I don't mean to be negative, but I mean, you're going in there to do your business and you get out, so I don't see making it climate control.
Okay. Mr. Peoples?
About that issue, excuse me. I agree with the toilet thing because I've worked in prisons for 22 years and I know how durable those things are, and they're very, very difficult to knock off a wall and things like that. As far as climate control, I'd say no, because there may be a situation where you might need to take a fire hose in there and just clean everything at one time, or pressure wash it inside, and you can't do that inside of a climate controlled bathroom. So.
And that was one of the requests that I had when I did my walkthrough with Sheer Construction, was something that we could go in there from time to time and take our pressure washer, so we could do a top to bottom clean, a lot easier than what it is at the moment.
Right.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's all a good idea, and not have climate control too, but I think it's a good idea with what they're gonna do with the bathrooms.
All right.
Good idea.
As to the bathrooms, I don't think we need climate control. I think you're just asking for equipment that's gonna break down. We're gonna have to service all the time. We're gonna have more utility costs. And it's probably gonna be some copper that's gonna be visible. Sometimes copper walks away in the middle of the night. I just think it's a bad idea to do it. And if any of us have spent any time in outhouses, we know that they can be quite nice, especially in rural northern Wisconsin. So no, seriously, that's what they use. Non-climate control. So I would be in favor of non-climate control and using the more durable fixtures.
Is there such a thing as a climate controlled outhouse?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Right here, right down that hall.
But you are able to rent them.
Okay.
I don't know, Clay Electric does it for that anyway.
We can open it up. These folks are,
Will you come up to the, because we are broadcasting this?
I was just thinking, council members, if we have a ball or if we have a big event or something, which we may or may not, but if we use that facility in a different way, we might want to consider a nicer bathroom for those events. That's all, especially if they're in the summer.
or
That was it.
portables.
Or what?
Portables.
Portable.
Yep.
Here's Johnny.
Either of you like to speak to the? Can you come up to the microphone? I'm sorry, we're broadcasting. I want to be respectful of anybody who might be watching.
Carrie Collins, I'm on the Heritage Commission. If you do a special event like that, it is kind of a ways to trek over there to go to the bathroom, and if you're talking about a ball or something and you got heels and you're, you know, so maybe you could rent something, you know, at weddings and things like that, they have those nice porta potties where you like, you know, step up, or the TPC when you go, you know,
Yep.
those kind of things. So maybe if they do a special event, you can rent that, so, just an idea.
Thank you.
Now, are they gonna put it where it is now, or they're gonna get it closer?
I'm imagining that you're going to leave the structure where it is?
Yep.
with
Yes,
this proposal?
this is just a
They'll get it closer.
rehab on what's existing there.
Okay. Let's see, park rules, item 3.
Can we stick with item 2 for just a moment?
Sure.
The stage, I am very much in favor of that, and Larry, Jimmy Bush did stop in earlier, and
Yeah, I saw
he's a
him.
local musician, he plays a lot at the park, entertains us. He's in favor of it, I'm very strongly in favor of covering the stage and the concrete patio and so on. So I think that's something that would really be almost a necessity to make that park more functional. So I would be in favor of that. I'm not exactly sure what you have in mind with covered picnic area. Perhaps you could elaborate a bit on that?
Yes, so provided in your packet today, and I apologize because it did come in later than I had expected, but is the scope of work from Sheer Construction and the letter of engagement. Within the scope of work for the covered pavilion area, the idea was that will replace most of our rentals that we have now for birthday parties and things of that nature, and we'll talk about those fees later on in the agenda. But we're looking at pouring a concrete slab, redoing that covered picnic area so that it mimics the look of the pavilion. And that way it's just a nicer facility that somebody could go and enjoy an open picnic or a birthday party or family reunion or whatever they would like to use it as.
Looking at Shear's proposal, I don't see anything specifically addressing the band, the covered band area. Perhaps it's in there and I just haven't seen it.
Give me one
The
second.
plat-
There are 2 items, it says provide a new concrete platform with CMU stem walls. Would that be it?
So the bottom of page 3 going into page 4 is the scope of work and qualifications for platform canopy. There's a canopy footprint of approximately 501 square feet. And so that would be this concrete stage as well as the covered area.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, I have a question. How do we include in the building of the stage and the roof, the overhang, lights? It's very important to have stage lights. It's very important to have fans up under there, and we need to redo the entire electrical system running out to there
This,
for amplifiers and things.
this scope of work does not call for stage lights. This, it's been my experience when dealing with some of the bands that they have their own lighting to provide, because it does create an issue of vandalism on our standpoint of having those lights. But this would include 2 ceiling fans with lighting that would be controlled through the pavilion. That way it's not switches that you can mess with, it's out in the open on a continuous basis and things of that nature. So there will be some lighting that we can control internally as well as the ceiling fans.
Okay, thank you.
Electrical outlets are very important for a band too, so we need to make certain that there are a lot of outlets.
Yes, that was one of the conversations too. that
Maybe
the
have
events that
a
we-
dedicated line or two, just because some of these pieces of equipment do draw a lot of electricity.
And some of the bands have music, what they call snake cables that run to control the music, what am I trying to say, the lighting, or the sound
Up in-
engineer.
Yes.
Well, we show up
until-
with our own sound and lights, and most bands that have been around a while have that equipment.
Any other comments, questions of staff? Ms. Ladonna?
Question 2, Clay Electric is such a community partner with us, and I'm wondering, you know, if we upgraded the stage, I know they have a program where they, you know, do things in the community. If there was a plaque out there for them that said provided by Clay Electric or something, they might want to come in on an upgrade of the stage, or especially the stage, because we do programs out there. It's just a thought. I don't even know if it's possible, but
Probably
you
would
guys
be.
might know.
Yeah, Clay rents their own stages whenever they have big things.
No, I mean, it's a
Do we-
partnership with us, you know, just with the city doing something with us.
You mean like the, when you're driving through Palaca, or East Palaca, there's FPL Pavilion that the FPL has put out there, and with their name all over it and things like that. You're
Yeah.
talking about like,
Could be something, I mean, I don't know, it just might help. It's just a thought while you guys are
that's a
just
good
kicking
idea
it
if we could do
around.
that, yeah.
The city could sell naming rights like Miller Park or whatever did, and be paid in exchange for use of the name, and they could put up their logo. Is that what you have in mind?
Something like that, yeah. Just to get them involved and to lessen the cost, you know, for us if it's possible, since we have fewer dollars.
True.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so before we move on then to item 3, did you want to talk about financing this at this point?
Yes, that, if I may, Madam Mayor, I wanted to just get a general consensus from the council on what direction that you'd like to go. We've talked a little bit about maybe phasing this through and then doing it all at once. There's going to be some legwork with either one of those projects and some potential for some cost sharing between the city and Clay County, as well as maybe finding other partners. But I wanted to get a concept or a consensus from the council, what direction you would like to take this moving forward, if it is a staged approach or if it is going to be an all-in-one renovation. The cost given to us by Shear Construction is roughly about $208,000. That's broken down on your first page on how that works. The platform canopy, that's plus or minus $25,000. There was conversation at the last council meeting about if the stage was going to be covered or not. So with that being said, we do have CDs, we have infrastructure CDs that are going to be maturing here between September and November to the tune of about $400,000. If council desires, that's something I can look into and what that's going to look like for our financials. We do have money in our infrastructure account right now, cash on hand, to go ahead and move forward with this project.
How much?
Right now, cash on hand is about $326,000, and we're still due about $120,000 coming in for the rest of the fiscal year. But with all that being said, I really just wanted to capture what council was looking at doing moving forward, so I knew where to spend my energy, what to look for.
I'll start at the other end. Vice Mayor Hart.
Echoing what Scott said earlier, I think it's important that we do concentrate and not be penny wise and pound foolish, because we all know in a couple of years, we're going to have an influx of people when that water shows up, and we need to be ready. And I think we need to just say, if we've got the money on hand and it's allocated for permanent improvements, throw the money at this project and do it as quickly as possible. That would be my thinking.
Ms. Keller?
I agree with him, that's true.
Mr. Peoples?
Yeah, I believe we need to do that, and I think a significant roof over the stage is appropriate, not just some tin pilings or some tin that ends up in Melrose every time we have a hurricane, so something significant there.
Mr. Brown?
I'm all for it, but my question is, yes, we have that money in the bank and it's coming due and stuff, but is there anything that we have major that we need to take care of that we see coming in the next year?
Does Kenny need another truck?
Well, and that would not come out of the infrastructure
I
account.
know, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I completely understand. And so those are things that I can speak to today, but I can't give you a definite answer. Like I said, I just getting consensus on, and if you wanted to do it all at once, if you wanted to look at phasing it in or things of that nature, this would be something that if you're looking at going forward, an all-in scenario, if you will, then I would call for another Budget and Finance Committee meeting so that we can discuss our financials and then a plan moving forward, bring it to council for a vote. And then also I would invite Shear Construction in here as well to have that conversation with you on what their scope of work's gonna look like.
From a financial standpoint, how much money is that earning right now? How much, what percentage of interest are we getting on that money?
0.3%.
And what's inflation going to be running, 2, 3, 4%? And construction costs, we were just talking to a builder a couple days
Yes.
ago, it's going crazy. The
It
cost
is.
of trusses is going up, everything is wild right now. If we can lock in something soon, I think it'd be smarter than waiting a year or two to
Oh,
do this. Yeah.
I don't disagree with
So
that.
I
and
think
if that's-
fiscally, I think it's very responsible to go ahead with it now and spend the money.
My question was just, I mean, I'm all about it, doing it. It's just, I don't want to go spend a bunch of money that we might have an emergency come up. And I just want to make sure that we're going to keep some for those emergencies.
And let me just ask this question. What is the recommended reserve for cities, for municipalities? What percentage of our gross revenue and expenses should we keep and hold aside to be a viable city in the case of a natural disaster?
And those are all fantastic questions, and those are all things that I would look at answering first in the Budget and Finance Committee meeting so that we can really drill down on what we have in reserves. And those are only 4 of our several CDs that we have, and those are 4 that are coming to mature over the next couple of months.
Okay.
We do have an adequate supply of reserves within
Okay.
our CDs and then cash on hand. So we can take a look at that more in depth at the Budget and Finance, and then again at council to make a decision. This is just informational purposes and get a consensus of what direction the council was looking to head. I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of time if you knew that you did not want to go after this project.
Well, I feel positive, like 3 members here, it's like, yes, let's do it all at once, let's get it done, let's knock it out of the park. And on the other hand, I feel like Mr. Brown down there is like, well, wait a minute, we need to be cautious about, spending everything all at once and then being caught.
Sure,
down the road.
absolutely.
So if we could get some more information, I would appreciate it. Are you guys okay with that?
Yeah, I just have a question. I don't think we have any bonding left, do we? I think we're all paid up in the bond.
That's correct.
So we do have a lot of bond headroom in case we did hit a major catastrophe emergency. We could bond some money too.
Yeah, I don't like that idea.
No, I don't either,
Well,
but
and,
it's
and
there.
again, I can produce your financials and then what we have in CDs, what's expected to mature, and then what our options are to put together a coherent, cohesive plan on how we would attack this, if that's the will of the council.
Yeah,
You think we need to have a Budget and Finance Committee meeting before the next council meeting? And then
yes,
we go over and then we present it to
Yes.
okay.
Yes,
I'm good.
we'll get that scheduled.
come on up.
I just have a quick question about the stage, Debbie Beals. Forgive me, because I don't know exactly where the stage is. I'm assuming it's where it was like, you can,
Straight down,
Right,
looking
right in-
right past the picnic tables.
so when you're standing on the stage, people are standing back and they're looking towards the lake?
Mhm.
So if you have a cover, will that obstruct the view of the lake?
That's potential, yes.
On the other
I
hand,
just worry
on the other
about
hand,
losing that view.
Yeah,
I mean, I think
I'm-
it would be great to have a cover over it, but I just worry
You're
about
coming around
the
the curve, and that's the one thing you want people to see is
the lake
view.
versus a roof.
we need to have some kind of structure there for the musicians because it gets hot in the summer and in inclement weather, and there's a lot of expensive electronic equipment sometimes out there. And, I think it's important. I think the musicians wanted it. I think Mr. Bush was here. You said he was here, and
He
he
was here.
explained to me that he would really, and the bands that play down there would like to have a cover.
Yeah, we're just considering all sides.
And having played down there with our community band, with 15, 20, 25 players, it has to be pretty good size. And the last time we played there, it was a hot, sunny day, and it was miserable. It would have been a very big help to have had a canopy of some type over. I think it's almost, especially to Florida, it's almost a necessity, is a necessity.
All right, so we're gonna schedule a BNF meeting soon, and you'll have time to pull together financials and look at percentages of reserves and that kind of thing for us?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll consult with our city engineer because we do have a bid opening for the trailhead. I'm gonna see if we can't knock out a couple of birds with one stone at one meeting and, get all that together and then handle a budget and finance meeting.
Okay. All right. So I think we've covered item 2 adequately today. Does everybody feel good about item 2? Item 2? Item 3, park rules. I'm gonna start with Mr. Hart on the right.
Well, as far as our hours of the park, I think generally, we've been doing, sunrise to sunset, or maybe 10 in the morning or something like that. What is the current policy?
The current policy right now is sunrise, is dawn
Dusk to
to
dawn.
dusk. But I would recommend, especially with our lights that we have down there, that we have set hours from the park. And this also, with improvements to with the renovations to the restrooms and then renovations to the fence, we're installing mag locks. So they will be able to be locked at a certain amount of time. You will be able to get out, but you can't get back in until whatever time in the morning. So I would strongly encourage set hours for the parks, whether it be 7 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, or things of that nature, but a consistent hour. That way we're not continuously having to mess with the mag locks.
Well, of course, each month and each time of the year is going to be a little bit different as far as daylight, so I don't know if we can set real hard and fast hours and make it work in June like it does in January. So I think, yes, I like the idea of having hours, but I think you have to consider relating the hours to sundown, and then each month have a different closing time. Opening time, could be 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, whatever.
And then if I apologize, Madam Mayor, if I may address the hours. We're looking at later on in the conversation of pavilion rentals, and so what those rentals would look like if you're going to allow for a wedding reception per se to be there until 10 o'clock at night. That way we can just set some structure. And I say 10, that's just a number.
We're talking hours for the general public, but for special events, wedding receptions and such, we could make it 11, 12, whatever, 9, whatever they want.
But that's when those gates, so we're running into security issues as well. And so I would just strongly encourage council to set hours.
Okay, hang on just a minute. Ms. Kelly, do you have any
Yeah,
questions?
I'm setting the hours too,
Okay.
for everything.
Mr. Brown?
I'll go back to the history. We've never really locked the place down. And I like the idea of locking it down after a certain time. But it used to be where I believe in the morning it was from 7 to, it was either 7 to 9 or 7 to 10. I'm thinking 7 to 9. But I would think if we got the lights and everything like it is, and I mean, it looks good, I would suggest we have a set hours from 7 in the morning till 10 at night. And if you have something going on, a dinner or whatever down there, then they would have to, when they do their special event or whatever, they would have to ask for an extension of the time. But I wouldn't go any less than 10 o'clock. That way it would cover, where people ain't got to come and ask permission all the time. So
I like the idea of extended hours as well, simply because we're investing a lot in this park. We want people to spend time in it, and if we restrict them through hours, then we're really saying you can look at it, but you can't touch it. And we're investing public dollars in this park, and I think it's going to be really important to allow access to it. And I think 7 to 10 is a reasonable set of hours.
I agree, Mayor. I think 7 to 10 is a good time frame. It gives people time to come in the morning if they want to come and do morning yoga in the park or whatever. 10 o'clock is adequate unless it's a special event. We give them extension or whatever. I think that's 7 to 10 is good.
All right. Mr. Hardy, any thoughts on dogs?
Yeah, I think dogs are family members in most cases. And I think if Mom and Dad and little Johnny want to go down and have a picnic, they may want to bring Fido. I think we have to have some sort of a rule as Fido's temperament, and Fido be on a leash, and that Fido's parents pick up after Fido. And in that regard, perhaps have a few stations where they can get the plastic bags and that sort of thing. Make the owners responsible. If somebody shows up with a Doberman that starts to snarl, they're gone. But I think we should allow dogs.
Okay, Ms. Kelly?
I do too, and they've got those little things that you stick in and the bags hang on.
Yeah, right.
And they put trash cans under them. So,
If people use them.
Ms. Rubikowski, can we get those down at the park?
If we're going to allow them, absolutely.
Mr. Peoples?
I think dogs would be fine in there as long as people pick up after their dogs and we don't have any issues with dogs biting kids or things like that. So yeah.
Mr. Brown?
Definitely. I'm a dog person, and I know where my daughter's at in her apartment. They're required. They got stations where you've got the bags and everything, but, it's disgusting, but I mean, as long as people will pick up after their dogs and take care of them, I don't have a problem with that in the parks.
What you could do perhaps is we could administratively put in an ordinance line that basically says you will pick up after your dog, and if we catch you not doing it, it's a $50 fine. And then post that somewhere, not obnoxiously, but just let them know, hey, these are the park rules. And if you don't pick up after your dog, it's going to cost you some money. The dog's going to get expensive.
Yeah. Mr. Hart, consumption of sale of alcohol.
Now, this is the third rail. Here's my thinking. Absolutely no sale of alcohol. I think that would be sending a terrible message, and we're not in purveyors of generally food or anything else. Consumption, I think if
The sound of heroes.
yeah. Consumption, I don't have a problem with if it's kept quiet, and perhaps it could be limited to beer and wine. And the reason I think we could do it is a lot of places have done this. Way back in the day, we spent some time at Ravinia, which is north of Chicago, where they've been doing this for 100 years, and people bring their picnic baskets, and you know, they'll bring a taste with their basket. And I don't recall any problems up there. So as long as it's kept quiet and people want to have a sip of wine and listen to music, for example, I think it's okay. But certainly no sales.
Madam Mayor, I apologize. Can I ask specific questions regarding this
Yeah.
once we're done with conversation? There's a couple of
Yeah, hang on to your questions,
Yes.
okay? Well, I just want unadulterated responses
Sure,
first, and then we'll
absolutely.
start to ask questions. Mr. Peoples?
I agree with Vice Mayor Hart. I think that's a good idea, but no sales.
Mr. Brown?
Nasty, but I agree with him too.
No, I asked.
No, you didn't.
That's what you did.
No, you didn't.
What would you say?
What would you say?
No, no alcohol.
No.
Yeah.
No alcohol. Okay.
My question is, are we talking for special events? Are we talking for just coming down to the
Kids.
park? Which one of these are we addressing? I mean,
You can address it as you want to. How do you want to address it?
well, I personally, I know I've worked several 4th of Julys, and there's just no way you're gonna police people bringing in alcohol. But I'm totally against just bringing a picnic basket or coming and having lunch or whatever at any of the parks and bringing your booze, because you can't control it. I think with the Project Play or whatever it's called now, Geneva Jungle, you have kids down there, and I personally wouldn't want to bring my grandkids down there, and somebody's over there with a case of Bud Light or something. So, but in order to do the pavilion, we ran into this issue back years ago with the airport, and that's why we've given the airport the authority to, when they have special events out there, if someone wants to have a party or something. I think on the pavilion part of it, if you have an organization that wants to have a dinner and they want to have beer and wine, I think they should be able to do it. But I am against just coming down and, I mean, if it's an event and it's not sold, I agree. We don't want somebody selling it. But if you have an event and we okay the event, I don't see a problem with it. But that's just how, how people do dinners and parties and everything now. But just to have somebody to come down and be able to come down to the park just to drink or whatever, I'm dead against that.
Okay. So now, Ms. Rakowski, I know that we've had private conversations, and hang on just a second. And I think what we envisioned when we talked about alcohol at at Keystone Beach is that we were thinking about it in terms of the pavilion rental only. So that it was, and if you booked a venue with us, that when you signed your rental lease agreement, you know, you were allowed to bring alcohol to that event because it's in the rental agreement, and/or we could do it the other way, which is have them come before council with an event application and let them know what the rules are, or let staff know, let people know what the rules are. In terms of the venue, I feel like the venue deserves every opportunity to maximize the venue which we can charge for. And there are not a lot of places in Keystone where you can have we've already turned down a baby shower because, number one, it wasn't done at the time, but we don't have anything in place where the ladies could have mimosas for a baby shower, right? And so that's very harmless to me, is to allow these girls to get together, women, whoever wants to celebrate a baby, and rent this beautiful space, but not be allowed to serve alcohol. So I was always thinking when it came to the alcohol, like Mr. Brown suggested, not about the park itself, but specifically with the venue, and allowing the venue to maximize its potential for all of our residents. Ms. Rakowski, did you want to contribute? Or do you want us to hear from Ms. Carey first?
Madam Mayor, I just have specific questions on what council's vision is so that I can draft something and put it in front of council later on. So if you want to go ahead and handle public comment.
Yes, come on up, Ms. Carey.
I just had a couple thoughts as y'all were talking, and you know, I think it's a wonderful facility. It's really going to, you know, move the city to the next level. So, but with the special events, I think that the alcohol would be a good idea just for that. But with their application, they would have to say that they were going to have alcohol so that it could be approved by the council, because then they have to still provide their insurance, you know, their liability and whatnot, their policy. The question comes, I think, with allowing people to bring alcohol in beyond that, comes with the enforcement issue, which
Yes.
also happens to come with the dogs. I love dogs. I have 2 dogs. Dogs, alcohol. I mean, so who's enforcing all this? You know, we don't have our own police force. You know, there's only 3 county deputies running around. I mean, you start getting issues down there at the beach. People aren't going to want to go to the beach. Oh, well, there's, you know, alcohol and, you know, there's incidents and no one's down there enforcing it, and, you know, people are running rampant doing whatever they want. So I think there's some, you know, bigger, I mean, yes, use the facility, use everything, maximize it, but, you know, there's got to be definite parameters and boundaries.
Just so you're here, so speak to us. What do you think those should be? What would it look like if you wanted to rent that facility and you wanted to have a really nice event?
So if you wanted to, like someone mentioned, a ball, if you wanted to have a ball or a formal type of function, yeah, I mean, you do your special event application, and you've got to be also forthright with what's going to go on there, you know. So they'd have to put, if they were going to have hard alcohol or if they were going to have beer and wine, they'd got to explicitly state that so that everyone knows what the expectation is and clear. And then in addition to that, I think that they might, depending on what type of function is, they might even need to hire like off-duty deputies, or have some sort of, you know, security in some sense, just to make sure that everything's okay. I mean, if you have a nice event, theoretically, you're not going to have to worry about the people at the event or what's going to go on down there or whatnot. But with, you know, their forthrightness with the application about the alcohol, you know, they've got to provide their liability policy indemnifying the city, just like you do with any other special event. And I don't know what that costs for alcohol for a special event, but probably not a ton. But and then from that, you know, it would be having someone from the city to just make sure that it went down the way they said it was going to go down, and that it was put forth and they were forthright, because then that would impact whether or not you granted them a special event application moving forward.
Yeah, we don't want to create more problems for staff, that's for sure. That's not the intent of changing or moving a policy forward. But, okay, so Ms. Rakowski, ask your questions. Thank you, Ms. Carey. Mr. Cornegay.
So let me say that I'm completely in favor of consumption only within the pavilion and opposed to consumption outside the pavilion. But I've heard a couple of you say that you would like to see it limited to beer and wine.
That was my comment.
Yeah, I would discourage that. I would not preclude liquor, for a number of reasons. You heard Ms. Collins say a nice event, a ball or whatever. There will be people attending that would prefer to have a cocktail rather than just beer or wine. And once again, the enforcement issue. How are you going to, if I have a graduation party down there for my niece and I've got beer and wine and I've also got a bottle of Buffalo Trace.
His favorite, by the way.
Exactly.
Going out to the trunk of your car every 5 minutes. Is that what-
How would you know? So anyway, that's my comment. I would not preclude liquor from the.
And I hadn't. I mean, I think, like, the example for the baby shower, the mimosas, I think, that's how they envision that event for their family member. Yes, Ms. LaDonna?
Perhaps, on the application fee, if they say they're gonna have alcohol, you could consider charging a fee for security along with the rental.
That's a good idea. Thank you.
So just one follow-up, I'm sorry, it made me think of, because he said a graduation party, so when we talk about a ball or things like that, we're assuming that everyone's adults and they're over 21. So when you talk about other events besides that, then you're getting into a different issue about underage drinking. And if someone by chance was there and then, they underage drank and then they went out and got in an accident. Now theoretically, the person with the liability policy, because whoever was serving or whatnot, it's still city property. So, you need to protect yourselves.
Yeah.
And so that's, those are like the big picture issues that you
Yeah,
look at.
Mr. Commando would factor in largely here. and
You're getting
We don't
into the-
have him here today, so, but all of those things, we can at least put in position to have another discussion about all of these things. Ms. Rakowski, did you have anything else? I can't see you.
can I make a-
know, it's,
I can't see whether you
they
have
solved
something to
one
say.
problem and created another.
Yeah.
I would ask that you ask Rich about Florida's dram shop law and what liability we would have if we don't furnish the bartender and we're just simply the landlord. I doubt that we have any, though. When you're going to sue, you sue everybody in sight. So I think that's a very fair point, very fair questions.
So
I'd like to know where we stand legally.
do have some of those answers because this is not a new conversation to our city council. It's happened a couple of times throughout the years. One, the sale of alcohol versus the consumption of alcohol. So if you're issuing individual permits, then that's one thing versus taking liability of having somebody sell and then check IDs and whatnot. You're putting the responsibility on the tenant, if you will, versus anything else. But so if I may, I do have a list of questions on what direction council would like to see, if any, so that we can put this together. What I think I'm hearing you say is that would alcohol, yes or no, be allowed with an administrative application through the pavilion rental? Or would it be considered as a special event? So if you wanted to have alcohol, you would have to come in front of council versus if you wanted to have alcohol with your rental, it would just be something that's included. I understand the concept of, are you going to have alcohol at your event? However, there is no way that we're going to be able to check to go into a baby shower on a Saturday afternoon to see if they were truthful or not to pay that extra deposit. So it's really a question of if you're looking at it as a part of the rental agreement or if you're looking at it as a special event.
I think it should be part of the rental agreement, because I agree with Scott that alcohol should be allowed under special circumstances, and that because we've all been to Northeast Florida League of Cities and League of Cities meeting. They wouldn't have those meetings without alcohol. And we need, and that's how it is. And we've all imbibed and we've all drank.
Kira's laughing.
And I think it's kind of, on one hand, we can have alcohol down here at our event over here, but we can't have it here, and I think that's a little bit ridiculous. So I think.
Also, I kind of feel like if it's coming before council, we're gonna get bogged down because there may be a lot of events down at the pavilion. I mean, I hope,
Knock
that-
on wood.
yeah, I hope that people use that facility and enjoy it and stand out on the deck and look at the lake and the stars at night and have a wonderful time. And so our meetings might get bogged down by applications for us to approve on a monthly basis, and that's gonna put, you know, an applicant kind of, you know, you have to think 30 days out at least 30 days out to get your application into city council to ask us if we're gonna approve their event in a venue that we own. So I feel like Larry does, I think it should be implicit in the rental agreement, and then we look at the fee structure, that fee structure would reflect that, and hopefully maximize.
I think it could be handled administratively, except for a real special event where we would be passing on in any way.
That
And either
was my
way,
next
that
question.
question would be asked, and somebody said maybe providing some security. Do you have a quote bouncer? Is somebody going to be around to kind of police this and perhaps make that person personally liable for any damage? And that might discourage you. If you got somebody there that's got a dog in the fight, it could cost them money. They're going to make sure that the beer cans get picked up and things are neat and tidy.
And also the container, I mean, we can solve some of that by not allowing any glass. You know, well, you've got liquor bottles, that's glass. I was thinking about glass bottles
but-
of beer.
Yeah.
So, but there's also additional questions, if I may, that kind of goes in with that. So what I'm hearing is that that the consensus of council is to go ahead and move forward and look at a draft agreement that's going to allow the consumption of alcohol within the rental agreement.
Within the four walls of the building. Nobody can be walking around with red cups. They gotta keep
Can it be on the
it
deck?
inside.
Be on the.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I think you have to include the structure.
Okay, all right, that'd be
Perfect.
fair.
And then with
And
that,
anything that requires a permit would, you'd have to make sure that they're gonna have alcohol or not. That'd be a question you would ask.
so that would be my next question, is that is council willing to consider an event that's going to be within the beach itself? So am I going to change the event policy as well, that there's a possibility that we would allow alcohol in the park for approval under a special event? Because if it's just being handled under the rental agreement, then it's never going to come in front of council.
But it's not a private park, it's a public park, so we couldn't restrict it in that sense that somebody came in and said, we want to take over Keystone Beach. We want the whole park. I don't know that we could shut down that park for a special event if we have public hours from 7 to 10 p.m.
Well, I mean, I'll give you an example, like for the 4th of July. We have the fireworks there, so they come in front and they do an event application, they go through those motions and things of that nature. If someone wanted to come in and put on, we've got the concerts that happen at the beach. Are those venues, are you looking to possibly change the event portion of it to allow alcohol at the beach itself, or are we just keeping it strictly to the pavilion, which would be handled administratively only in the walls of the pavilion?
Well, I personally feel really comfortable starting there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
Let's
think
see
we
how
can
it goes on that before we.
Yeah, keep it inside the
jump.
four walls for
Yeah.
now.
on the deck.
Can we do that?
Okay. So, and then just for,
Let me throw another one in too. And this goes back to the most recent issue we contemplated. Do we want to allow consumption of alcohol in the parking lot for like a food truck event, since that's what our ordinances allow?
well, with that being said, if I just might chime on that, you're not allowing the sale of alcohol.
No.
So for a food truck event in the parking lot, then that would be considered the sale of alcohol unless someone's just providing it for free.
Well, what Green Cove Springs does for their food truck events
Mm-hmm.
is they cordon off an area and they let families come in with their coolers, okay? There's no sale of alcohol going on in Green Cove Springs at their food truck event. It's simply, we have a cooler in this area, we're gonna allow the consumption of alcohol, and that's it.
So with that being said, then the answer then I think would be yes, that we would allow for a special event, allow the possibility of alcohol outside of the outside of the pavilion itself. And then that would be heard by council on a case-by-case basis.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yep, fine.
Yep. Mr. Brown?
Yep.
That wasn't very enthusiastic.
I've been down this road from the time that we did the airport, and this place was packed.
Well, and understand, this also is an ordinance change, so you're looking at 2 public hearings with public notice and things of that nature. This is just an outline so that I know how to draft these moving forward.
It'll be smooth.
Okay.
So would that include for band concerts and rock and roll concerts or whatever, people be able to bring coolers? Is that what we're talking about?
You mean?
Because I don't wanna drink apple juice when I'm all listening to the Stones.
So those are, and what I'm hearing then would be that it would be on a case-by-case, a special event.
Stones aren't coming here, but you know what I
Well,
mean.
no, it's case-by-case, a special event, that it could potentially be allowed as long as the sale of alcohol is not happening. Is that,
And it's within a defined area that's marked off.
so,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Bluecraft Festival works that way.
To me, that sounds like the camel's nose on the
Okay.
tent. I would just assume keep it within the pavilion and the deck for now. And when we do start having food trucks, which we will, we can then consider that as a separate issue. Technically, I don't think the parking lot is part of the park. It's just public property.
well, it would still be considered, city property, which,
You would need an ordinance for it.
so,
Okay, but I would say let's cleave that notion out for now and keep it just within the pavilion and see how that goes first. Take baby steps before we start talking about, having a special area with coolers and all that. Otherwise, it's gonna be like the Wild West.
so
Yeah,
is
we
it,
don't want the Wild West.
No.
Yeah, because when you do that, you're gonna, in that event form, you, like Ms. Carey said, you're gonna have to have law enforcement. I mean, there's nothing getting around that, because if you're gonna have them drinking, I've been in situations before, and 4th of July is one of them. They come in here and they're toasted before they ever get here, and then they keep toasting. So, if we go in that route later on down the road, I would highly suggest it be in the event that they have law enforcement,
All right.
some kind of security.
so is that a yes or no on special events at the moment?
I hear a no on
Okay.
special
Yeah.
events.
Yeah. I just threw that in there because
Okay.
I might not be here when y'all do all that.
Is there anything under other, that we need to address for park rules?
I do have, just for consensus one, we're going to be able to launch boats from the park.
Yes,
And
but
anything
this is
that you
not-
can carry down there.
Yes.
So trolling motors and things of that nature would be permitted as long as you can hand
Carry.
deliver it down to the lake itself.
Yes.
Okay.
And that construction is not happening within the scope of the work that we're looking at here? Are we gonna do that independent of the work and the scope of the rest of the park?
Well, that would all be included in the park's rules and regulations.
Right, but about the construction, we've talked, construction today on the kiosk. Is that gonna happen separate to what we're doing here in the park?
The construction on, I'm sorry, I'm not understanding. Forgive me, I'm missing with your question.
So we talked about putting a kayak kiosk down at the ramp.
The kayak kiosk, that's something that's going to be probably in the future. That's not happening today or anytime in the near future. The kayak launch itself, we will have the gate open that you can bring your own kayak or your own boat of whatever you want to carry down there and launch it from there. But the kiosk is going to be something totally different.
And I do want to revisit the idea of fishing. I think fishing should be
That was going to be my
permitted
next one.
at the beach because it's happening anyway, and it's a very,
Those are old rules.
they are.
Old.
So I
They've
think
been around a
fishing's
while.
okay, and at some point, if we want to put it on a little dock, I would be okay with the dock.
Fishing, as long as it's not within the designated swimming area.
Right.
Was one of the questions was if I want to take a kayak out and I want to drink a beer, as long as I don't walk across park land with an open container, it's okay? Was that the part of the discussion? I think it was, or it should be.
We hadn't gone there
Yeah,
yet.
okay, I misunderstood.
If we have build a ramp like you're talking about with a kayak launch area, it could also be used for fishing. We could put something maybe on the end of it for fishing. Yeah.
And that'll be later on down the
Later
road.
on,
Perhaps Ms. Kimberly Morgan can help us with that one.
Yes.
I have one thing, Mayor, under other, is the, and I know we have rules already on skateboards,
Mm-hmm.
but with the money that's been spent down there, we're gonna be pretty strict on that skateboarding, on that,
Ramp?
on the decking or any of that stuff down there, because they like to jump up on the picnic tables and do their, I don't know what that's called, but they do it on the concrete walls and stuff like that. Are we gonna, I mean, keep an eye on that?
Well,
With
The
the
rules now say
skateboarders?
that you can skateboard.
pardon?
I think the rules now say that you can skateboard down there.
No, there's no
No.
skateboarding.
No, there's no
No.
skateboard.
Mm-mm. The only place that you're allowed to have any kind of skateboarding would be at the skate park, which is no longer existent. It's now a pickleball court.
Well, just from a liability standpoint, somebody could get hurt, could be the skateboarder, or could be somebody that gets rammed into, and either way, the city's gonna get sued, so I think we just ought to have a red line and say, no skateboard anywhere.
Strongly encourage no
Yeah.
skateboarding.
Well, not encourage, demand.
No, strongly discourage
Yeah,
no
okay.
skateboarding, or skateboarding.
Yeah.
Anything else under park rules? All right, moving right along to item 4, rentals. Pavilion rentals, and I understand from Mr. Cornegay what he is asking us to consider in terms of fees for government entities, civic, nonprofit, private rentals. I think Ms. Rakowski has included some comparisons in the packet. It's at the back of your packet.
Madam Mayor, there are 2 pages in the back of your packet. One is fees for like facilities, if you will. We reached out to Clay County, reached out to Gold Head, the other municipalities, as well as the Women's Club. We found out that the Park of the Palms is no longer renting their facility due to COVID. And then I've also put together just some suggestions to start for talking points.
Okay?
The first page that you have, like I said, is just research what we found for pricing of like centers. And then if you want to go to the last page in your packet, in talking with other municipalities, I found that most, if not all, of facilities that are owned by the municipalities, if it's a government agency, if the sheriff's office is looking at it, or an extension of the government agency, that there is no cost, that there is a staff present so that they can unlock and lock, and usually if there's an event going on, staff or council is welcome to attend as well, so.
Any thoughts on that, guys?
I agree with it.
I agree with the tiered approach that Scott mentioned, and I see that's more or less what you have in the outline right now, is having 3 different tiers. And I think
Mhm.
if it's government related, for example, I don't know if the community band would be government, I guess it would be, ZIP, but if it's an organization like Kiwanis, we want to have something out there, 1 fee, or if it's just, family reunion, have a different fee.
So, and again, this is not an event for the park. If the band is gonna be utilizing the stage, this would be something that is just the pavilion rental
Just a
itself.
pavilion.
So if we wanted to, or if the sheriff's office wanted to host a seminar of things of that nature down there, that there would be no cost for them to do that. Again, the library is wanting to offer classes down there, there would be no cost for them to utilize that.
And looking at the rentals also, just a point, I sent her over the fees for the Women's Club because you're allowed to have alcohol in that facility, so that gives you a kind of an apples to apples, what another facility is using or charging, for that facility, recognizing that ours is brand new. Any thoughts on, let's see, we've done government entities, civic nonprofits.
So the thought behind the civic nonprofit is we do have our Kiwanis Club, the Rotary, Safety Net, KLRBA, things of that nature. I would think that we would want to encourage as many people to utilize our pavilion as possible. However, there is going to be costs related to staff time as far as cleanup and setup and things of that nature. And so I did put in there a small fee. I know that specifically the Rotary does rent where they're at right now. And it would be up to that organization if they want to come and rent it for a couple hours. They would not require a key. It was something that during staff time that staff would come unlock. They would set up, the organization would set up as they see fit, utilizing our furniture, and then staff would come behind them in a couple hours, do our cleaning, and then lock the facility.
Do you see yourself having to hire another part-time person as we go through this? And are we going to incorporate that in order to cover recover our costs? Or are you expecting that the rental fees will pay for the personnel to do that work?
So the staff's already doing, well, when we had the pavilion prior to doing those checks of what happens when somebody's down there. It's a routine thing of what staff is required to do. I don't see it being a whole lot
In
more
addition
than.
to?
No, not at
Okay.
all.
All right?
I
So-
think, excuse me, but being in the cleaning business, I think with what we're dealing with now, it's gonna be a lot easier and faster to clean than what it has
Looking
been.
what it was.
So,
So does everyone feel like $20 for 3 hours for civic nonprofits is reasonable with no deposit required?
I think so.
I do.
And that would
Okay.
be through the hours of 7 to 3:30. That way staff can unlock and then lock back up.
Okay, so you got 5 in support of that.
Yes.
Yep.
And then we're going to private rentals. Private rentals, your suggestion is $150 for 2 hours with a $150 deposit. And then $250. Did you ever call out to Blanding and about their facility to see what they charged at Blanding?
No, Blanding was one that I did not. I apologize.
Because they're on the lake too there.
Mm-hmm.
And just to confirm parables, would you just have someone call out there and see what their fee structure is?
Sure.
And that's for their new conference center on the lake.
I know, and I'll double check, but I didn't know if Blanding was open to the public or if it was.
It is open to the
It is,
public,
okay.
and they have a bar there.
Okay.
Okay.
And
So
so these-
pending no new information that would, cause us to question our own decision, is everyone okay with the fee structure as she's outlined it here on the second page?
Yes.
I'm good with it. The only question is, what if they book, pay a deposit, and then they cancel for whatever reason? Do you want to?
Within our rental agreement, and all of this documentation will come to council for approval, we will have a cancellation notice, as we do now. So if you cancel within X amount of time, then you'll receive your deposit back. If not, then that deposit is forfeited.
Okay, so
Is,
all 5 in favor of the fee structure for private rentals?
the only thing, just for my clarification, day long, is that from the time it opens till the time it closes?
That would be one rental, that would be that you have it for that entire time, so that, and that's in there. I'll give you examples, as we've got many that come in, they've got a 4-hour event, but they want to come in that morning and decorate, and so it's allowing them to have that whole time to decorate as opposed to just the allotted 4 hours or 2 hours.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good.
I'm good with that, yes.
Okay. Vice Mayor Hart?
Yeah, I'm fine with this. I think it looks good.
Ms. Kelly? Okay, you got 5-0 support there. Covered picnic area, and this will be after we remodel that area, is that correct?
Yes, Madam Mayor, and this was just because I recently attended a birthday party at one of the parks, at Little Rain Lake Park. They have a first come, first serve. If it's not going to be rented, you can come there, you can enjoy your lunch, and then go play on the playground. However, they do allow a guaranteed time that if you want to pay a small fee, that they will post your name and the times that you're allotted to, and you can go and make sure that it's yours as opposed to not battling with someone else. And they find that most of the time that everybody's respectful of the fact that there's going to be somebody renting there, and it gives them the assurance that it will be available.
So this actually becomes the new old pavilion rental type thing for birthday parties and that kind of thing?
Without the need for keys, so they'll have a time that they have to reserve by, so that we can make sure that we get that schedule in over the weekend.
Okay, canvassing the council, Vice Mayor Hart?
It's fine. That's fine. I think that's fair.
That's my house.
Okay,
I'm good.
all right. 5-0 vote there. Gazebo rental.
Our gazebo across the street has become quite the destination to get married in, and we've had several conversations about people wanting to come and rent it. Again, it's a first come, first serve. There's sometimes senior pictures or whatever's being taken there, but someone would like the assurance that they're going to be able to have their wedding there and then set up the surrounding area for chairs and things of that nature. And so I just put this in. It's not something that the city's ever had in place before, but it would guarantee somebody that facility.
I'll start with Mr. Brown.
Yes,
Mr.
definitely.
Peoples?
Yes, I had mentioned to you about putting maybe a trellis up, back up background of trellis with
Mhm.
flowers and things, so people could take pictures after the wedding things. That's a good idea.
Well, the cost of wedding's $50 is chump change, so I think that's quite fair.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, we were with you on that one, Ms. Rakowski. Mr. Cornegay, come on up.
So I'm quite certain Lynn's about to kill me, but,
Wouldn't be the first time, right?
right? But, and this just popped in my head just now, the possibility of a wedding package. Getting married at the gazebo and then having the reception
That's an
at the
excellent idea,
pavilion.
Mr. Cornegay.
Very good idea.
You earned your keep
I
today.
have one from time to
So
time.
would that wedding package be something different than a $250 plus a $50? I mean, we're talking a $300 fee to get married in Keystone Heights for a 4-hour, or a $550 fee if you're looking for the entire day. I don't know, I mean, we can combine those and separate them as needed.
Well, throw in an extra $100 and Marion can be the notary that marries.
I don't know that Miss Mary wants to start conducting weddings
No,
here.
Marion,
Yes.
Marion.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
So we can definitely put it together or tear it apart, but
Yeah.
the purpose is if you want to get married, then for an extra $50, then you can go across the street, set it up, and then go and set up your wedding there as well.
You pay the photographer 10 times that much at
Yeah,
least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Quite
So,
reasonable.
But you can at least advertise it.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Well, it'll become a destination for a lot of people, not necessarily people just in the city, but
Right.
you'll have people from Orange Park coming down here to get married. Maybe you do already.
as many weddings as we had prior to COVID,
Yeah.
it's definitely a miss on our part. So,
Maybe you could formulate a list of different people who could preside at the ceremony, like if you want to get married by Elvis or whatever, you could get,
Thank you
All
very much.
Larry.
I'm
No.
not entirely
got?
sure that as a government agency that we can
No.
start making those kinds of recommendations and putting that package together. I don't want to get into
don't wanna
the
get it.
It sounds like a
designing your
little,
wedding business.
sounds like separation of church and state issue. I don't think we're gonna get involved with that.
Okay.
We'll let you use our facility however it is you deem fit,
No, well-
and whomever is
well.
going to be there to do it.
All right, use of coolers, what is this one? What do you want to say here, Ms. Bukowski? Use of coolers.
So the use of coolers, the pavilion is part of the CARES Act, it's part of the CARES Act. As a secondary food distribution site, when FEMA steps in or when there's a state of emergency, when the state has a need to start distributing food that we saw with COVID. With that being said, when they come in and they need our facility, it's theirs to use, and that's part of the agreement. I have had a couple of conversations about having the roast drive, the smoke roast, butt roast. Yes, butt rub, thank you. And then having different agencies store their materials there. The conversation is if there was excess food that came in or things of that nature, how do we handle that? And who can we say yes to and who do we start turning down? So it was we know that when the government comes in, that this is the facility that they're going to use.
But are there other occasions
When the coolers might be
refrigerator-
used.
And I was one of the ones that brought that up to Lynn because, USDA gets food periodically that they can share with Lake Erie Ministries, but if Lake Erie Ministries doesn't have room for that food, would it be appropriate to offer our refrigerator and freezer to Lake Erie Ministries, assuming that FEMA's not using it at that time? I mean, it's just a question, and it doesn't hurt my feelings, yes or no, but it's just something to consider.
I would caution council to just say, yes, we'll start allowing people to utilize our storage without having some kind of restrictions or some kind of fees attached to it, because then you start getting into who are we going to
Who's gonna
allow
clean it out, how
versus
long?
not. So if you can do you don't get a key, it has to be during business hours, or there's always emergency purposes. Everybody in the city has my phone number, of things of that nature, but there's a cost to it, and so that calendar controls what we do store, was my reasoning behind that.
You might restrict not the entity that can use it, but the time period. For example, if Lamb wanted to use it, say, for 3 days, maybe that would be all right, if they had an emergency, if they were overstocked. But I don't think we want to open it up to be sort of a permanent annex for Lamb. I think that might be shortchanging other community
And-
organizations.
I
Well, it'd
agree.
be keeping, for Lake Erie Ministries, it'd be keeping with being a food pantry or food shelter.
True, I'm not diminishing the importance of having it for that entity. I'm just saying that there are other entities that would be just as important and would have things, reason to use it. So if they wanted to use it for overflow on a temporary basis for 2 or 3 days, I don't have a problem with that, and I wouldn't charge them anything. But if they would start viewing this as a permanent thing where they can just come down and bring stuff and set it aside for future use and depriving other organizations of the use of it, I would have a problem with that.
So, as a government entity, we're gonna need to have kind of a clear line, because I can't say yes to somebody and say no to somebody else that can do like services.
Right.
Well, and if that's the case, then, we use it for FEMA. We may not use it very often, but we won't use it at all except for FEMA.
But my thought was if, we charge, and $20 was just, again, this is me typing. If it's a $10 a day fee or something like that, then it's small enough, but then we don't end up storing for a long period of time, because there is funds that are being transferred, that we are collecting money on that.
I would
But-
have 2 suggestions: 3 days max for any organization to use it, and that would cover special events and things like that. Except FEMA, and then have a bump clause in the contract saying, we understand that if we have a hurricane, you got to get your stuff out of there because we're going to need it for FEMA. Yeah.
Mr. Brown?
I agree with Vice Mayor.
Mr. Peoples?
Yeah, I agree too.
Okay.
Because if they store it, a lot of times they won't come and get it out of the way. I've seen it.
Be throwing away old pork chops.
Just from my knowledge, when we're renting this pavilion, those freezers are gonna be locked up, right? So
Yes.
not just anybody can go in there.
So the refrigerator that was put into the pavilion prior to the renovation is going back into that small room, and that will be utilized on a
Okay.
case by case so that they have some place to store it. But our walk-ins are going to be specifically for our purposes under lock and key.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right.
Just a clarification, if we do this and Lamb does, for example, want to use it for 3 days, are we going to charge them the $20 a day? Just like everybody else? I think we have to. I think we have to be fair amongst all the organizations. Kiwanis wants to use it $20 a day. Methodist Church wants to use it $20 a day. Lamb wants to use it $20 a day. That'd be my recommendation.
With a 3-day cap, is that what I heard?
With a 3-day cap for
Okay.
anybody, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. And outside of private agencies, I don't want to store buffalo sausage or whatever else.
Yeah.
No.
Well, we can have an exception in the policy, can't we?
Sounded mildly offended. Okay, so, booking and paying for events, I think this is the last item. Are we there?
I believe
It's
so.
been a good conversation. It's been really good.
So booking, and like I said, this was an agenda that was trying to capture all the conversations about different agencies coming in and utilizing the facility and things of that nature. One of the requests that I had was booking a lunch and then budgeting for other services outside of the city. I don't know, I need direction from council as a whole on how to handle booking events, event application, and we're clear that this is something that's going to be charged for, or things of that nature.
I mean, do we accept credit card? Is that what she's saying, or?
No,
check,
well,
or-
no, as far as having, like, the KLRBA or the safety net or something like that coming in and utilizing for one of their monthly meetings. That's part of the civic organization. There is a fee for that.
Mhm.
And then, so the question is, and then us having a budget to pay for lunches, I don't know that that's within the scope of us to host outside of something that's approved by council.
There are a lot of taxpayers that can't afford to eat out. I would just assume not get in the business of catering. I don't think that's within our governmental function.
Okay. Are you also talking, like, something else can remind me? No, I'm fine.
So if somebody wants to have a get-together, they can bring their own food in. What if they want to use the refrigerator for an hour or two? What do we do?
Well, we'll have a refrigerator that'll be there for general purposes. We'll have a fridge freezer
Oh,
that'll be in there
okay.
for general
All right.
purposes that can utilize
they-
that. That they will, nobody will have access to our walk-in except for us unless you're paying for walk-in storage.
Otherwise, they're gonna use coolers.
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else from council? Anything from the audience for the good of the order?
Are we?
How do we do?
We don't,
I'd like to thank the two members from Growth Management for being here today.
Yes,
Very helpful.
you guys are contributors, thank you.
I'd like,
And the Heritage Commission.
I'd like to thank Jimmy Bush for coming down here and talking to everybody about his feelings, so, appreciate that, Jimmy.
Mrs. Rakowski, anything for the good of the order? There you go. Seeing none, we're adjourned.